substitution method. This is where one of your variables is solved for. So you have x equals or y equals, but your other equation is not. So we're going to take it back from where both of those equations are solved for one of your variables, mainly y, so we can graph it. But to now where we only have one of those. Now, the substitution method is just like it sounds. We're going to substitute into the other equation and then solve from there. So those multi-step equations that we did at the very beginning of the year, we're going to revisit them again. So let's take a look here. So on our first example, we have negative 4x plus 3y is equal to negative 2. And then we have y is equal to x minus 1. So where I'm going to start here is that I'm going to start by replacing y with what y is equal to. So since y is equal to x minus 1, I'm going to replace y in my other equation with x minus 1. So here's how that looks. I'm going to drop this down here. So I have negative 4x plus 3. I don't have y anymore. I have x minus 1. I'm going to multiply 3 times both of those two things. And that's going to be equal to negative 2. So now from here, I'm going to distribute the 3. So you'll notice here, I kind of took away one of my variables and replaced it with the other variable. So now we have one variable to solve for. I'm going to distribute the 3 to both of those there. So I have negative 4x plus 3x minus 3 is equal to negative 2. Now, this is like our equation, so I'll go ahead and draw our line. And so I'm going to, you'll notice that I have negative 4x and 3x plus 3x on the same side of my equal sign. So I'm not going to do the opposite there. I'm just going to do the operation that tells me to. So it tells me to go ahead and add them. So negative 4x plus 3x is going to make a negative 1x. And then minus 3 is equal to negative 2. This is just strictly simplifying. Now I'll add 3 to both sides. And then I have negative 1x is equal to 1. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. Then lastly, I'll divide by negative 1 on each side. And so x is equal to negative 1. Now, here is the sad part. We're not quite done yet. We're going to have to go back and plug in negative 1 for x to find out what y is. So if you'll notice here, the easiest equation, it doesn't matter which equation you go and plug it into. However, it's easier to plug it into that bottom equation because all that means is it's going to tell me what y is. Y is x, which is negative 1, minus 1. So I'm going to go back and plug this in right here in for x into this equation. So here we drop it down here. So I have y is equal to not x anymore. I have negative 1. That's what x was, but now it's negative 1. We know it's negative 1 now. Minus 1, and so y is equal to negative 2 there. And so therefore now my solution here is going to be x, which is negative 1, comma, negative 2. So you want to make sure that you write those in alphabetical order. So don't get those flip-flop because that will kind of lead you to disaster. I promise on multiple choice questions, whether it's mine or EOC, they're going to have those flip-flop. So you have to pay close attention. Which one's your x? Which one is your y? All right, so let's look here. We have 3x plus 4y is equal to negative 4, and then x is equal to 2 minus 2y. So in this instance, I'm going to replace x in my first equation with 2 minus 2y. So I'm going to take this part right here, and I'm going to replace it for x in this equation. So dropping down here, I have 3x, not x anymore, 3 times 2 minus 2y plus 4y is equal to negative 4. And so from here, I'm going to go ahead and distribute the 3 to both of those. So I have 6 minus 6y plus 4y is equal to negative 4. And then you'll notice here, I'm going to kind of do some cleaning up on the left side. So I have negative 6y plus 4y. That's going to make a negative 2y. So 6 minus 2y is equal to negative 4. Notice I'm keeping my equal to sign straight down. I've seen some of you, like, you're trying to do all these jingled things because you don't want to write down all these steps. Keep them each in line so that way you can keep everything straight. Now I have a two-step equation. I'm going to move 6 over by subtracting 6 from each side. So I have negative 2y is equal to negative 10. And then lastly, I'll divide by negative 2. And y is a positive 5. Now, remember, sadly, Not done yet. So I'm going to go back and replace this in to my first equation. So I'm going to take 5 and I'm going to replace it in for y and find out what x is. So drop right back down here. So I have x is going to be 2 minus 2 times y, which it's not y anymore. It's now 5 because I know what that is. So then I'm going to have x is equal to 2 minus 10, which is negative 8. So now when we come back down here and we write our solution, it's going to be negative 8, because that's my x, comma 5. That's my solution, negative 8, comma 5. Remember that our solution means that's where those two lines. If you were to solve both of those for y and then go graph them, they would cross at negative 8, 5. Remember, that's what that solution means. Even though we don't have two equations that we're going to graph, if we were to graph both of those, that's where they would cross. All right, last example here, we have x is equal to 3y minus 25, and then I have 5y plus x is equal to 47. So remember, this is substitution, so I'm going to go through and replace. I'm going to replace 3y minus 25 in for x here. I made this one kind of easy on you. Last one. So I have 5y plus, I don't have a number out there in front of x, so I can just leave it as 3y minus 25. So no distributing. Yay! Is equal to 47. So here's my equal sign. So I have 5y and 3y on the same side. That becomes 8y minus 25 is equal to 47. Then I'll add 25 to each side. 8y equals 72. Then divide by 8. And y is equal to 9 here. So remember, not done yet. I'm going to go back and replace 9 in for y and find out what x is. So I'm going to take this 9, I'm going to put it in right here, find out what x is. So I'll drop this back down here. So I have x is equal to 3 times y. It's not y anymore, it's 9 because we know what that is. And then minus 25. So then I have x is equal to 27 minus 25. And so x is equal to 2. So now when I go write my point, remember x comes first because I write these alphabetically. So my ordered pair for my solution is going to be 2, comma 9. And that's my solution there. So remember, what that means is that if we went to go graph both of these equations, that you would find they would cross at 2, 9, because remember, that's what that solution means. Okay, so just a couple of closing notes here that I want you to remember about is that it's kind of a two-step process. So you have step 1, you're going to replace. It's actually kind of a double replacement. So you're going to replace whatever variable is solved for in the other equation. And then the second, and then solve for that one variable. So remember, solve. So then you're going to find out what that variable is. Well, now you take that variable and you replace it again. So then you replace the other variable with what you know what it is. Then you'll basically simplify. There's not really a solving. It's a more of simplifying, multiplying out, that kind of sort of thing. And then that's where you'll find out. Remember that your ordered pair is going to be x, comma, y. So alphabetically, write it alphabetically. Don't flip-flop it because it's going to show something. The answer choice will have them flip-flop so that way, because they want to trick you, and I mimic POC stuff. All right? So replace, solve, replace, simplify. But in between that solving part, multi-step, you'll probably have to distribute, combine like terms. Then you have a two-step equation, move over, divide, and then replace again. So it's a little bit time consuming, but once you kind of get the hang of it and get practicing, not that bad.